last week, I think it was, I had gotten a few people call into this show saying that Don Henley of the Eagles was lip syncing. And I said look, you don't need me to tell you how I feel about anybody doing this. And everyone knows this is a soapbox issue for me, and I'm glad I've made it one. And I've made it one for years now because it's incredibly important to rail against it. And, I've said the writing's on the wall if people keep accepting it. Well, more than one person called in and said Don Henley of the Eagles was doing this, which blew my mind because the whole point of the Eagles is the vocal. Like, the whole selling point of hearing them live is to hear the vocal done live because they're all amazing singers. It'd be like the Beatles coming back together and them running tracks. It's insane to even think about. Well, more and more proof, and if you go on the internet, and I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad people are starting to care. If you go on the internet, on YouTube, there are blatant videos of Don Henley clearly not singing with vocal coming out. It's even gone so far that a recording engineer put up a waveform of the recorded file against the quote-unquote live file, and it's identical, which is impossible to do. If you recall, when Paul Stanley was being accused of this, which, of course was true. I mean, Ace has said it a million times in recent interviews that as rough as his voice can be, at least it's real. He keeps saying, at least I'm not singing to a track. But the same thing when the whole Kiss thing, somebody put the waveform up on YouTube, meaning the actual, the real vocal, the recorded vocal. It's madness. So now you have the Eagles, a band totally known for harmonies, with the lead singer allegedly not singing or not singing live. And you can't even get your head around this. And the Eagles are going to come into this city, Vegas, and headline the Sphere for God knows how many nights, make God knows how many millions of dollars, to hear Don Henley's recorded voice? It's fucking madness. It's madness. So, I mean, somebody's got to do something. Like, okay, I'm really going to try to hold it together here, but I just can't even get my head around this because when you, like, I understand if you got some poor bastard who lost all his money and has maybe one hit and he's 75 years old and he's just trying to make a living and, like, okay, the guy's just trying to keep his lights on. He can't sing anymore. Okay. Even then, I don't approve of it. Even then, just go get another singer. Like, in Ace's situation, his voice ain't great. We know that. He's at least singing for real. And in my view, if he wants to keep playing guitar and he's just not there vocally, go get a singer. Half the set in his band is sung by somebody else anyway. Who cares? At least it's real, right? I remember when I was talking to John Sykes about trying to do Blue Murder again. And John Sykes said to me, he goes, Ed, you know what? I can't sing like that anymore. I said, John, go get a singer then. Find some young kid, let him sing the set, and you sit there and rip away on guitar. Everyone would sign for that in a minute. By the way, when Blue Murder first started, Ray Gillen was going to be the singer. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're just the lead singer and you're known for that. So I don't know what's going on here, but my question to the audience and to Eagles fans would be, are you okay paying a few grand to go see a show where the main guy is not singing? And if your answer is yes, again, get ready, because every single band is going to be doing this. Half of them are already, much younger than the Eagles. My point about an older person who's broke or playing clubs, you can almost understand that. You can almost give him a pass because, look, the guy's got to live, can't do it anymore, whatever. But in that case, I still say go get an actual singer. But the person's trying to keep their lights on. Don Henley's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Fucking retire if you can't do it. How do you tarnish your legacy like this? All over the internet right now, people are talking about the guy lip syncing, one of the great singers of all time. How do you go out like that? How do you charge fans? Like, how do you live with yourself doing that? And you know what they would say if you asked them? Well, everyone else is doing it, so why not us? Which is exactly why I put such a warning shot about this 10 years ago. And have been railing on it ever since. Exactly for that reason. Because of the acceptance, the normality of it, and nobody apparently caring. When all the stuff came out on Kiss, what happened? People still paid ridiculous money for the last 2 nights to go to Madison Square Garden. If there's no repercussion, if everyone's okay with paying hundreds or thousands of dollars to listen to tapes, why would anybody not do it? The only reason is to have some dignity and some respect for your legacy and your career. And again, I'm threatening right now to go out and do it. I am not done considering doing Eddie and the Tracks, because that was a joke when I threw that out there like 3-4 years ago. It's not a joke anymore. If you got a fan base and they're willing to look the other way to come and pay thousands of dollars to listen to your tapes, fuck it, I'll go do it. I can't sing, but I guess it doesn't matter. Let me tell you this. 2 things tying in with this story. And by the way, I have not been on my fan email all week because I was on the cruise. So I only loaded up my fan email for the first time in like a week today. And, the Eddie at E.Trunk.com. And I saw 1 million people send me these clips. That's why I'm bringing it up today. Because I didn't look at it until we talked about it last week. So, also earlier this week, on Howard Stern, Ann and Nancy Wilson were on. And I only heard a little bit of the interview on the replay last night when I got here to Vegas and I got in my car. And I don't really know if it was Ann or Nancy. I couldn't tell. And by the way, they were supposed to be on this show as well, following that show, but I wasn't here, obviously. So we'll do something more with them before the tour starts, because they both have been on many times. But Ann or Nancy, I don't know which one it was, said that this upcoming tour they're promoting, a big heart tour. I think it was Nancy said, and oh yeah, just so everybody knows, we play totally live. We don't do what some bands do and have tapes and tracks and all that stuff. And Howard said, how do you feel about that? Howard said, how do you feel about so many new younger bands doing that? Howard, newsflash, they're all doing it. New, old, mid-ground, half the bands on everyone are doing it. And I love this. I love this. They were kind of a little diplomatic, but I don't know if it was Ann or Nancy, and they said, you know what? At the end of the day, they said something like it's lame, and I know for a fact, she said, chicken shit. You go, Ann and Nancy. I love that they made a point in telling everyone that their tour is going to be real. How pathetic is it that we're in a time where a rock act or any band has to announce and take ownership and credit that the live show is actually going to be live? Think about that for a second. We are in an era where bands that actually play live have to take credit for actually playing live because so many don't. And just think about that, how insane that is. You are paying thousands of dollars. And they have to do a disclaimer that, oh, by the way, you're actually going to hear a live show. Chicken shit was exactly go listen to the Stern interview. I've not heard the whole thing. Chicken shit. Perfect. I'm going to use that. Ann or Nancy, whichever one of you said that, brilliant. Yes. Thank you. Finally, on this topic today, this came across my radar. This from Ultimate Classic Rock, the website. Joe Elliott of Def Leppard, quote, "We don't use tapes." Listen, in the industry, everyone still says tapes. Even though what the technology is that people who are faking it, it's not an actual tape. Back in the day, it was a tape. These days, it's computers. But the terminology still remains tapes. We don't mime to tapes. We don't use tape. That means tracks lip syncing, right? But obviously they don't use actual tape anymore. It's a computer program. So Def Leppard has long been accused of playing to tapes because their vocals are so stacked and so complex the way they're recorded that when people go to see them live, they can't believe it's actually live. So for years, people who don't know any better have said Def Leppard is a track act. It is patently untrue. I have talked to the guys about it repeatedly. I stood at their soundboard during one of their shows with their sound engineer who showed me nothing was going on. I've watched them sound check. Nothing was going on. Vivian Campbell, Phil Collin, Rick Savage are phenomenal singers. They put so much work into their vocals. When they played the private show for SiriusXM a year and a half ago at the Whiskey, I hosted it. I sat with them in their dressing room and watched them do the vocal warm-ups. So can you imagine how offensive it is to a band when half the people are faking it, that when you're putting all this work in, that people say you fake it? And Joe Elliott is one of those guys that hears that. So he did an interview with something called Stereo Gum. The singer addressed rumors that Def Leppard's performances are technologically enhanced. And here's his quote. "I don't normally comment on this kind of stuff, but a friend of mine just sent me a link to something on YouTube. A recent posting by, forgive me, I don't know his name, Chuck something from Testament, I think it is. And Chris Holmes accusing us of using backing tracks. I don't get angry at this. I'm flattered because their standards must be very different to ours. For anybody that thinks we use backing tracks, it must mean that when they hear us, they can't believe how good it is for being real. We don't use backing tracks. We use effects. God, who wouldn't? When there's 4 people singing, we use effects, but there's no tapes of backing vocals. We use keyboards. We use a few drum loops because, in fairness, 2-arm drummers use drum loops. But Rick Allen, to play a song like Rocket, it's a cacophony of toms that one arm couldn't play. So, yeah, we use a triggered loop, which is part of his drum kit. But Larry Mullen's also been doing that for years. So have thousands of other drummers to enhance a sound. But backing tracks are playing along to a backing track. We've never done that. Never. We've never mimed to the vocals, or we've never had multiples of stuff on tape. It's literally live. And I'm happy to invite any of the Def Leppard doubters to come stand side stage with a pair of headphones on so they could actually hear what's coming out of the stage. If we were running at about 90% live, it's more than most people's 100%, because we do play and sing, and it takes a toll. And then he goes on to talk about the work they put into singing. So, yeah, this is, in a way, is the ultimate backhanded compliment. And I've had arguments with people about Def Leppard forever. Oh, you're just saying that because you know the guys. No, I'm not. As Joe just said, I've stood on the side of the stage and watched. I've heard the sound checks. I've stood at the soundboard. So you got Def Leppard, and yeah, I don't mind a loop or a keyboard. I get it. We're never talking about that. But you got Def Leppard putting all this work in to do all those harmonies. And now you got what looks like Don Henley just lip syncing. Like, if you can't do it anymore and you're worth $500 million, why don't you just go away with dignity? Retire. I say it all the time. My friend Mike Piazza, the baseball player, Hall of Famer, he can't hit the ball anymore. He can't catch anymore. He made his mark. He made a shit ton of money. He's gone. Moved to Italy, gone. In the wind, plays golf, has the life we could all just dream of. But his legacy's intact. Absolute madness. So props to Joe Elliott for setting the record straight. Props to Nancy Wilson for calling everybody that does this chicken shit. And Don Henley, for the love of God, if you're going to go out and charge people millions, thousands of dollars to hear you sing, do them a favor and actually sing. And if you can't, get somebody else to do your parts or go home. You got nothing left to prove, but man, how do you make a mockery of your legacy? Finally, because there's a lot on this today, and all sides of it, Jon Bon Jovi, who has had massive vocal problems. Again, the last tour was a train wreck that he was so bad singing. And again, I don't say that to pile on. I'm just saying it because it's true. He has since revealed that he had surgery because his voice was gone. Now, we have a very, very big year for Bon Jovi because it's their 40th anniversary. This documentary is about to come out. He's doing a ton of press. 40th anniversary of the first record. What we don't know is his ability to sing and if he's going to be able to. And he has revealed that he has had surgery. He told Entertainment Tonight, it's day-to-day vocal cord surgery. I'm working hard on it. Nothing else matters until I work on getting better. It's up to God at this point. I've done everything I can do. Bon Jovi also confirmed that he's put off a return to the road with Bon Jovi until he's back to his previous vocal strength. Quote, I won't compromise who we are as a band live because I'd like to think we're a pretty darn good band. I sang on the new record. I've done Music Cares. But when I woke up after that night, it was the first time in a decade the only voice in my head was mine. Fear wasn't there. Doubt wasn't there. I felt like I was back. Says Bruce Springsteen has been like a big brother to him through his vocal cord surgery journey. So again, That's how you do it. Nothing but respect to Jon. I mean, I would think he probably wishes he would have shut it down on that last tour because it was so awful. And the guy had a serious medical problem. And he's not going to go out until he can actually do it and he knows he's okay. That's how you do it. And that guy's worth $500 million. He doesn't have to go do it. He's not going to go get a tape. Come on, Don. I mean, why wouldn't Jon just go get a tape? It's about having some integrity and being able to do it live, like he just said. There was accusations, by the way, that Jon had tape going at one point. Because he walked away from a mic and his vocal came out. Now, they pushed back on that and said it was something else or whatever. I don't know what was going on then. But this is how you have integrity for your legacy. I've been seeing as a guy from New Jersey, I've been seeing Jon Bon Jovi and Bon Jovi play since they were in clubs. I saw him open for 38 Special. That's how far back I go. Love the band. But if the guy never plays again and sings again the rest of his life as far as doing a concert, I'd rather have that than him go out and be a tape. That's how you got integrity. Last thing on this, because again, so much is, you can see how all these parts are colliding, right? And I couldn't believe this, right? And this is what's so scary about all of this. And I'm sorry, I might have time for a caller here too. But again, there's a lot going on, and I've not been on outside of 9 million guests. We've had million guests Monday, Tuesday. We got 2 guests tomorrow with Scorpions and Tesla. So I haven't had time to do my thing here. So just bear with me. Yesterday, I'm waiting to get off of the cruise ship. We're in the port. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. If you've ever been on a cruise, they make you get out of your room so they can clean it for the next people. So they gather people in these lounges and stuff until you get to walk off the ship. So I'm in this lounge area. I'm by myself. And there's half the band, unlike Monsters of Rock, where I know every person on the whole friggin' ship. With a cruise like this, I know some of these bands, but I don't know all of them. They don't all know me. It's totally different. So I'm sitting there minding my own business, sitting with my baggage, waiting for my stuff to be called, my name to be called to walk off. And there's a guy and a woman there, obviously from another band that played somewhere on the ship, and they were waiting as well. And I overheard them. I don't know who the band was. But I overheard them talking because we were all in this very small, confined area. And the woman said both of these people were in the band, the man and the woman. And the woman said something like, yeah, they sounded really good, whatever band they were talking about on the ship. And the guy said, yeah, but actually I heard they're all tape. And she said, really? And he said, yeah. He goes, I even went up and looked at the drummer's computer, and it was all a track. And she's like, oh, my God, that's so disappointing. That's so disheartening. And he goes, yeah. And they were gathering their bags because they got called. And he turned around to the woman, and he said, you know what? Makes me wonder, if so many people and promoters and everybody seem to be cool with bands doing this, why am I putting the work in? Why don't I just go get a tape? And I was like, man, there it is in a nutshell. That's where we are doomed. That is where this all just is headed. If people don't start caring. I literally, anonymously, these people didn't know me, I didn't know them, heard professional musicians ponder that. And look, somebody like Sebastian Bach has said it out loud. He's like, why am I working my ass off, singing my ass off, when I could just go out there and get a tape like half the bands I see on the road or that he's toured with? God, I don't know how anybody could honestly not see how dangerous this all is. By the way, speaking of Sebastian, he is shooting a new video here in Vegas tonight, which I'm not going to give you any details because it's not open to the public, but he invited me to come down and be in the video, which I'm going to try to do very briefly. Apparently there's some sort of zombie theme to it or something. I don't know. But I'm going to try to go very briefly. This is the second time he's asked me to be in one of his videos for a song from his upcoming record. He originally asked me to be in the video for the first song, What Do I Got to Lose? But I couldn't do it because I wasn't in Vegas at the time when he shot it. But he's shooting one tonight. I am here. I do need to get to Scorpions, but I'm going to try to get over there and maybe they can shoot my mug for 30 seconds or whatever they need, and then I can get on my way because I got to get to that show tonight. So anyway, maybe I'll have some stories about that for you tomorrow. Thank you all for listening. I really apologize. I really wanted to get to some of your calls. There's just a lot going on today. Looking at the screen, John in New York, will you see Fish at the Sphere? No, because I'm not a fan of the music. I would go in if somebody gave me a free ticket just to see the show, but the music's not my thing. Bonnie Raitt, Little Feat, Melissa Etheridge, still 100% live. Ken in South Carolina, good on them. All the truly live bands should own it. Dex in Denver with a Black Crowes review. Sorry, I don't have time. I know they're playing the Greek in LA tomorrow. I'd love to go. Don't have time. John in Atlanta, congrats on the great interviews this week. Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it, John. Hart, Ray in Maryland, Hart on Stern. Ray, I don't know if I touched on what you brought up. Richard Christie told me in that interview as well that they also talked about fireworks going off, which we've talked about before back in the 70s, with that being a thing, people chucking M80s. And Richard sent me a text, said when you hear the interview, you'll hear that was talked about in there as well. So I'm curious what they said about that, but apparently that came up in the Hart interview. Again, I only heard like 10 minutes of that interview. It was while I was in the car last night, and I heard a great 10 minutes because I think it was Nancy, call bands that play to tracks chicken shit. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. If I don't hear anything else from the interview, I'm good, because that is the most important, meaningful thing that you could take from it. Fantasy, what it's got to be, your fantasy.